Okay, so wind analysis. So we open up the 3D model. Now, for wind analysis, we need to export the 3D model to a another piece of software called Autodesk Flow Design. So once we make the masses visible, we can export from the 3D view to an FBX file, which the Autodesk Flow Design can read. So I'm just going to put it on the desktop. Save it. Just overwrite the one that's already existing. Then I go to my desktop and you can see that it's sitting there, but we open up Flow Design, load it in, so scroll down to the desktop and find it there. And you can see that it comes in kind of standing on its head. And immediately the wind analysis begins, even though the model isn't orientated correctly. So I can see that it's set up at the moment for 3D analysis, so I'm just going to change it to 2D because a planar analysis is more useful for the purpose of design because you can actually see what's going on. So now we've got a vertical plane. I'm going to switch it to a top plane because we just want to have, see how it runs through the various streets and spaces and so on between the building. So now we need to change the orientation. So you can see that it's the X angle. Let's change the orientation, so let's type in 90 degrees. And the wind itself is orientated towards the west. Let me just change the size of the wind tunnel first of all by pressing these buttons and using these anchor points. And we just rotate around a bit, pan a bit. Cancel that and stretch it in. It's giving a little bit of trouble there where it hits the edge of the model, but we can kind of play with that a little bit later when maybe it's going to be a bit more together. Press OK. And you can see that the wind is coming from the west in relation to the model, which is perfect because that's where the prevailing wind comes from in Denmark. So let's just change the wind speed here. And here we have the wind speed in Denmark. We've got an average of 6.8, so let's give it one of these strong wind days. So I'll set it for 13.8 meters per second. Go back into Flow Design. Wind speed 13.8. Press OK. And now we've got a fairly realistic calculation there up on the top right as to what that would be. So let's just rotate around the model again. So you can see we can see the analysis at all angles, and we can also come in here to the side view, and if we roll in a little bit, let's just get the zoom working. Cancel that. We can move the plane of the analysis up and down until we hit the point that we want to look at for the purposes of this analysis. We can also modify what the flow units look like. We can choose these different options. So we just change it to those tubes. You can also use these kind of particles, which can be quite useful because they give a good sense of how objects will flow in the wind flow, where it's moving fast and where it's moving so slowly and so on. Now let's just go in here and play a little bit with the simulation settings. I've just turned up the amount of particles in the simulation. We also have the opportunity just to show it as a single plane or as a series of vectors. Sometimes for the purpose of design, at least early stage design, the lines idea is the most useful because you can see where it starts to create those kind of eddies in the flow, these kind of whirlpool situations. So it gives a really good understanding of how the actual wind will react in those situations. So I'm just going to move this a little bit. Let's look at moving it up a little bit. And then I'm going to modify the speed of the simulation a bit because it's a little bit manic. And just make it so kind of graphically it's not too chaotic. It doesn't modify any of the calculations, but it just changes it for the point of view of the visualization. And then what we can do once we're finished with this is we can export it. Let me just cancel that. We can export it out to either a image file or to a video file. So let's just export it to a video file very quickly. Just record it. And save it on the desktop again. Test. To do that, it records an AVI file, which we can then use. We can insert into presentations or use for whatever purposes we require.